If you are preparing for GATE Architecture 2027, then this video is going to help you save a lot of marks. Most people don't fail due to lack of effort or lack of conceptual clarity, but they do a lot of questions wrong because of very common mistakes or very common silly mistakes. In this video, we'll talk honestly about all the silly mistakes and all the possible mistakes you can make while preparing and while attempting tests. Hi, I'm Amir. Welcome to the part 2 of our series on how to kickstart your preparation for GATE Architecture 2027. And in this video, we'll be discussing in depth regarding the common and lethal mistakes that students and aspirants make while preparing for GATE Architecture as well as while attempting questions in the tests. The first thing, you all know in the last video we discussed briefly about GATE Architecture's syllabus. The syllabus is wide, covering 5 years of B architecture, 4 years of B planning, plus some additional concepts. So make sure whenever you are going through any concept or you are going through any book, you take crisp notes. And mind you, notes is just a tool to help you. It is not the whole and soul tool. For example, if you are studying for half an hour every day for 7 days, so let's consider a week. And out of those 7 days, if you are spending say 5 or 6 days on studying notes and only 1 day on solving questions or doing previous year questions, then this strategy would not help you. The ideal strategy would be having 2 or maximum 3 days of studying notes and then 4 to 5 days of solving questions, understanding what kind of mistakes have you made in attempting those questions and doing PYQ analysis. So have crisp notes, but don't gather too many sources and be confused throughout your preparation. Make sure you revisit your notes again and again so you have clarity on your concepts and you feel more confident while attempting questions. Within the notes itself, it is very imperative that you keep your notes set extremely limited. There are multiple books available, there are multiple coaching programs available, you might have your own notes from B architecture. So while you progressively discuss or progressively discover what your way of preparation is, stick to one thing. If you are doing self-study and you feel that your notes from B architecture or B planning are sufficient, stick to that. Or if you feel that you can buy one book from say Amazon or Flipkart and stick to that particular book, you can do that as well. Or you can go under any mentorship program where they will provide you their own notes so you can stick to your mentors. The crux of preparation should be more question solving and learning through questions. I know it might sound very trivial that solving a lot of questions and solving a lot of previous year questions is the strategy for all competitive exams, but believe me, 90% of the students still don't follow this. So that is the first mistake that you have to learn. Second is, while now suppose you have fixed your first mistake, where now you have started attempting a lot of questions, you have given more focus to question solving, previous year question solving rather than studying purely. The second mistake is not analyzing previous year questions or the questions properly. There are two methods. First, you have a previous year question, you go through that, you solve it correctly, you check the answer key and you move further. The second is to sit with the question and learn the question. Any previous year questions should help you answer 3 main things. First, what is the concept behind that particular question? Let me give you an example. For example, in GATE Architecture 2026 itself, there was a 1 mark MCQ question in common part regarding what are the 5 elements of acoustics. So man, nature, network, all those things were given and there was one fill in the blank. So the first thing that should come to your mind here is what is the basic concept behind it. So I can trace this back to acoustics from planning process. Now just if you go 2 years down the line in GATE 2024, again 1 mark MCQ, there was a question that in acoustics on the logarithmic scale, the world city is referred to as dash. So the correct answer is Ecumenopolis. Note that these 2 questions are different in nature, but they link back to a same concept of acoustics. So the first thing, if you know that from a question, if you are able to identify the concept, it will help you for further questions. The second thing is to identify why is the correct option correct. Right? So if there are 4 options, analyze why was the correct option correct. It could be some fact, it could be some logical deduction, It could be one of the possible answers. So note what are the correct answers. And the most important thing, study your wrong answers, wrong options. Never let those 3 options go to waste. Understand what was the philosophy behind those options. Why would the examiner choose to give those options along with the correct options? This is a comprehensive study of one previous year question. Similarly, it's okay if you're unable to cover thousands of questions or 3,000 of questions. Even if you're able to cover 500 previous year questions, make it a habit that you cover them this thoroughly. Another example, if I have to give you, in last year's GATE architecture paper in GATE 2025, there was a question regarding which of the following aspect is not covered in calculation for Human Development Index. The correct answer was mortality rate. In GATE 2016, there was again a previous year question which talked about to calculate Human Development Index, what all parameters are required. So it could be your gross national income, it could be your mean years of schooling, your education that we generally talk about, and your birth rate, right, or the health of the citizens that's there. So again, if you see 25 and 16, approximately 9 years apart, but the concepts have been twisted and repeated. Again, previous year questions are very, very important. So I'll be bringing a dedicated video on that where we'll be understanding how to make effective and most out of the previous year questions. The third biggest mistake is in MSQs and NATs. If you go through the previous GATE question papers, you will see the proportion of MSQs and NATs have been increasing year by year. That means the conceptual level of paper has been increasing year by year. So your MSQ attempts and NAT attempts need strategy. Let's talk about MSQs first. MSQ is a multiple select question where you have a question and you have 4 options, and either 1 can be correct, 2 can be correct, 3 can be correct, or even 4 can be correct in some papers. So you have to sit with the question, understand the question from all perspectives, and then make a choice. A lot of students think that MSQs will always have 3 correct or 2 correct, so they forcefully select 2 options or 3 options, so that won't be the case. In this year's paper itself, there were questions where only 1 particular option was correct. Even in GATE 25 part B1, there was a question where only Sear star for bundle tube structures was the correct answer. So in MSQs, the idea would be first to read the question properly, go through each option and identify which options are first correct. Okay, first you can make a guess on the face value itself. You can start deducing. There will be certain options that would be conceptually incorrect, so that you can point it out very easily. Second would be logical deduction. For example, this year itself, there was a question based on risk management in disaster management. So in that, if you are able to identify one formula that is correct, right, which is say risk is equals to hazard into exposure into vulnerability upon capacity, that option you have identified to be correct, right? Automatically, if something is contradicting that equation, would not be correct, would be incorrect, right? So such logical deduction would also help you. The third part is, once you finish your paper, you should check NATs and MCQs first at priority. There are high chances that you have overestimated or underestimated in MSQ. In order to improve your efficiency in MSQs, it is very important that you practice a lot of MSQs and note down what is your personal mistake type. For example, when I used to practice a lot of MSQ, my personal mistake type was that I overestimate a lot of options. Like if it would be A and B, I would write ABC. If it was just C, I would write AB or AD or CD. So my option would have the correct answer plus one overestimated answer. So that was one mistake that I used to make recurringly. So how to fix that? You start analyzing based on your mistakes. You improve on your mistakes. Similarly, there might be students who might be making mistakes in underestimating MSQ questions. There might be students who make mistakes in not identifying whether this is a MCQ question or a MSQ question. So generally in MSQ question, it would be written that it is a MSQ question. Secondly, there would be words like is/are, statement/statements. That means one or more correct. Coming to NAT. NAT is a very scoring part, that is your numerical answer type questions are very scoring. However, silly mistakes is the biggest foe or the biggest enemy you can ever encounter. These are the mistakes. I'm not talking in terms of conceptual clarity or not knowing the concepts. These are mistakes like not being able to convert units properly, not reading the question properly. Even though you have read the question properly, while solving you input a wrong value, so you don't read the values correctly. It could also be some mistakes regarding rounding off. So if they are expecting answer in say integer and you are feeding the answer in decimal places, that could be a mistake. It could be a mistake in which your way of writing in yours or the solving is so cluttered that you're unable to identify what is your final answer. Or you have solved and you have gotten the final answer, but you write a step ahead. That is one mistake I had done in my GATE 2025 question paper. So while you practice, identify what are the core mistakes you are making. For example, one of the mistakes I used to make is when I used to see a question, a longer questions, I used to miss some points. For example, in structures itself, a lot of times you will require acceleration due to gravity. So by just reading the question, I knew the concepts completely and I selected G as 9.8 meter per second square. But in the question itself, it was mentioned as G to be taken as 10 meter per second square. That means even if you know the formula, even if you get the correct answer, your answer won't lie in the answer range and you will lose marks. After you attempt any NAT or MSQ question, ask yourselves 4 things. Why did I get this question wrong? Was there lack of concept clarity? Then improve on your concept clarity. Try to learn the concept. Try exploring more concepts. Was it because I rushed through the question? Maybe because I knew it was very easy, so I rushed and made silly mistakes. I made calculation errors. Or fourth, did I misread the question? That could be a possibility. Trust me, this helped me to solve almost about say 17 to 18 NATs correct out of 19 or 20 NATs that were asked in GATE 26. I would suggest in your preparation, make ample of mistakes. Make mistakes in NATs, in other domains, conceptual mistakes, reading questions wrongly. But make sure you learn from them and you improve them in subsequent tests or subsequent question series. For this video's goodies, I'll be sharing you what are the mistakes that you can make while attempting NAT questions. I'll focus particularly on NAT questions with some examples of previous year GATE questions. If you like this video, please make sure you follow us on YouTube, follow us on WhatsApp channel where all the goodies and sources would be posted. On Instagram, we post a lot of informational content, so you can go and check that out. We are also starting our full and comprehensive batch, Udan 2.0 for GATE Architecture on May 3rd. So if you are interested in taking a mentorship program under us, please make sure you message us on this particular number. Have a nice day. See you in the next part.